Imagine a night filled with cheers and laughter, celebrating a bright future. That's what it should have been for 18-year-old Faith Hathaway, but instead her life was tragically cut short. Faith had everything going for her: dreams, plans, a whole life waiting to happen. Then, in a heartbeat, everything changed.
This man shot Walter Delacroix, raped Hope Percy, and stabbed her 17 times. In the courtroom at his sentencing, he was smiling and chewing his gum. He is an unfeeling, perverse misfit, and it is time.
That skunk robbed me of my only son.
You don't know when you see your child leave through a door that you're never going to see them alive again.
You're a white supremacist, a follower of Hitler.
Hitler was a leader, but he was on the right track that the Aryan was master race.
You're kind of a crazed animal, Nazi, racist, mad dog who deserves to die.
If you're enjoying our content, don't forget to like and subscribe, as this keeps us bringing you the videos. Now, grab a drink, snuggle up, and get ready to crack open another crazy case with your favorite crew. Alright, let's dive in. Picture this: Franklinton, a small town nestled in the heart of Louisiana. Winding country roads weaving through tranquil woods. A peaceful scene that seems a million miles away from trouble. But beneath that calm surface, a dark secret was about to unfold. Prickle's Cave, a quiet burrow pit just south of the town, became the center of a nightmare. This unassuming hole, once used for road construction, was where Faith's body was found. The thick trees around the pit created a hidden space for evil to fester, far from everyone's sight. Nearby, the Brook Cheetah River flowed peacefully through the parish. Its gentle beauty stood in stark contrast to the horror that unfolded on its banks. Franklinton, a town where people greet each other with friendly smiles and shared glasses of sweet tea, was shattered. Their quiet streets were now haunted by the shadow of violence. This close-knit community would have to find a way to cope with the aftermath of Faith's brutal tragedy. Right in the middle of this peaceful town, Robert Lee Willie's life took a dark turn. Born on January 2, 1958, to Elizabeth Allman, he was one of 5 brothers, but his childhood wasn't happy. Robert grew up right there in Franklinton, but his life wasn't like the other kids. His dad, John Willie, was in and out of jail most of Robert's childhood. John got in trouble for all sorts of things, from stealing cows to hurting people, and even spent some time locked up for the M-word. Even when John got out of jail in 1972, things didn't get much better. It seemed like trouble just followed the Willie family around. Robert's mom, Elizabeth, did her best, but Robert dropped out of school after 9th grade. By 16, he was already messing with drugs and not listening to anyone. Without a good dad around and all the chaos at home, Robert's life started to head downhill fast. It was a sad situation, and it planted the seed of something terrible happening later on. Robert's path would eventually cross with Faith's in a way that would leave everyone in Franklinton shaken to the core. The night of May 28, 1980 would scar the town forever. It was then that 18-year-old Faith's life took a horrific turn. She had just said goodbye to her friends, celebrating her upcoming stint in the army, and was heading home completely unaware of the evil waiting around the corner. Faith dealt a cruel hand that night. Robert Willie and his friend Joseph Vaccaro crossed paths with Faith. Robert and Joseph were like wolves in sheep's clothing. As Faith walked home, they approached her, acting friendly and striking up a conversation. Faith, trusting and kind-hearted, didn't suspect a thing. These guys were good at putting on a show, hiding the darkness inside. They spun a web of lies, pretending to be stranded and needed help. Faith, always willing to lend a helping hand, fell for it. With every word, they chipped away at her guard, making her feel safe. They were masters of playing people, twisting fate's good nature against her. Lured by their fake story, Fate got into the car, completely unaware of the horror that awaited. Every step she took was a step closer to a nightmare. The friendly guys turned into monsters, and their kindness just a complete act. Trust turned to horror, and Fate's bright future was snatched away in a single terrifying moment. Fate, full of hopes and dreams, was trapped in a horrifying reality. Her pleas for help were ignored as Willie and Vaccaro subjected her to the most heinous of violations, robbing her of her dignity and her innocence. They took everything away from her, showing a complete disregard for human life. As the night deepened, the horror grew worse. Fate's life was extinguished in the most brutal way, her body dumped like trash at the desolate Frinkles cave. Her final moments were filled with unimaginable suffering, a fate no one deserves. The news of Fate's ending ripped through the town. Shock and grief overwhelmed the close-knit community. They couldn't believe such evil could happen in their peaceful town. The once idyllic place was thrust into the national spotlight, forever stained by the actions of two monsters. The search for Fate turned into a desperate race against time as the investigation unfolded. A horrifying picture of her final hours emerged. Faith, full of life just one day earlier, had been through a nightmare. Her body without life was found hidden away in the cave, showed the terrible things she had endured. The justice system kicked in. Willie and Vaccaro were charged with the crimes, but for Faith's family, nothing could bring her back. As the trial went on, the story of what happened became clear. Willie and Vaccaro, driven by pure evil, showed just how dark some people can actually be. Other victims who had somehow escaped these men came forward. They spoke of terrifying experiences, kidnappings, torture, things no one should ever go through. It was horrifying, but their bravery in sharing their stories was a bright spot in the darkness. They showed that even after terrible things happen, people can be strong and fight for justice. Meanwhile, Franklinton was a changed town. Faith's story shook everyone to their core. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that danger can exist even in quiet places. Willie and Vaccaro wouldn't get away with what they did. The police and prosecutors came after them with everything they had, determined to find justice for Faith and the other victims. They dug deep, looking at every piece of evidence, untangling the lies Willie and Vaccaro had spun like a spider web. The courtroom was filled with tension. Faith's family sat there, heartbroken but determined to see those responsible pay. The prosecutors laid out their case, showing mountains of proof, witness accounts, science, everything pointed to Willie and Vaccaro. Gone were the cocky smiles on their faces. Now they faced the consequences. The courtroom became a place of truth where the weight of what they had done finally crushed them. When the verdicts came, it was a mix of relief and sadness for Faith's family. Justice was served, but it wouldn't bring Faith back. Still, there was a tiny spark of hope in the darkness. Seeing the legal system work, seeing a community come together, it showed that even after terrible things, there's strength and a fight for what's right. For Faith's family, especially her parents, healing wouldn't come easy. Their pain was raw and deep, but they channeled it into something powerful. They started a group called Parents of Ended Children. This group offered comfort and support to other families who had suffered similar losses, and they also fought to make changes in the justice system. They didn't want any other family to feel lost and alone the way they did. They wanted to make sure victims' voices were heard and that their fight for justice inspired others to join them. The case also had a big impact on Sister Helen Spurgeon, a nun who became Willie's spiritual advisor on death row. Meeting Willie and the victims' families changed her forever. She became a strong opponent of the death penalty. Sister Helen wrote a powerful book called Dead Man Walking, which was later made into a movie. Through her work, she made people question the death penalty. She believed that everyone has worth, even people who have done terrible things. Her work sparked a national conversation about whether or not the death penalty is right. The impact of Faith's case went far and wide. It made people think about justice, mercy, and what it means to be human. Even though the town would never fully recover, the strength and hope shown by the community in the face of tragedy offered a light in the darkness. The Faith Hathaway case is a tough one to swallow. It happened in a quiet town where everyone knew each other, and it showed just how evil some people can be. But even in the darkest corners, you can find glimmers of light. Faith's parents were heartbroken, but they didn't let their grief consume them. They turned their pain into something good. They started a group to help other families who had lost loved ones to violence, and they fought to make the justice system better. They didn't want anyone else to go through what they did. The whole story reminds us of a few things. Life is precious, and we shouldn't take it for granted. Even the best people can be taken away in an instant. People like Faith's family and Sister Helen give us hope. They show us that even after terrible things happen, we can fight for what's right and make the world a better place. Faith's story is a tragedy, but it's also a reminder of the strength of the human spirit. We can't erase the darkness, but we can choose to be the light. Let's remember our faith, and let's keep fighting for a world where violence doesn't win. Alright guys, before you dash into the night, don't forget to hit the like button. It tells us that you're enjoying the content, and that keeps the stories coming. While you're at it, you might as well subscribe and turn on the notifications, so whenever we uncover a new case, you're the first to get notified. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and we'll see you on the flip side of another mind-blowing case. Until then, stay curious.